Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of One Vision, the FinTech Fuse. This is Theo, your host, again for today's episode. Joining us on the show today is a dear friend of mine that I happened to have a chance to meet a few years ago in London, FNB Europe, and Risk Minds Europe. So thank you, our informer friends, for connecting us. Welcome to the show, Sajid. For those of you who want to follow Sajid, and I think you should, you can look him up on LinkedIn, Sajid Iqbal, Iqbal, and he's the head of risk at Habib Bank AG Zurich. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Theodora. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I think the first time we met was Risk Minds 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we shared a panel on risk management. And then last year, we also shared a panel on digital assets. I love following what you write on LinkedIn, especially on Fridays. It's always like a welcoming, peaceful way to conclude the week after typically things that happen, a little bit crazy at times. So let's start with what you do first before you go into what you write. I have to admit, before I met you, normally when I think about people that do risk management, my first reaction is, really? Like, that's boring. But you are far from being boring. What are some of the common myths and misconceptions that people have around risk management in banking?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, I always try to give a different perspective and try to look the things from a different lens. And that is most of the time we are missing with traditional risk management styles in banking industry. Um, I think risk management is nothing new for the world. I mean, we are experiencing risk management since the day of down, I mean, the start of the world. Risk management is nothing but playing with the uncertainty. So whenever there is an uncertainty, we need to tackle that uncertainty and forget about anything is certain. That is not a risk management altogether. So when it comes to banking side, I think one of the misconception is that uh, we often seen risk management as the brakes for the bank. So, but in reality, if we can look at it from a different perspective, it's basically a steering. So you need to really know how to maneuver the steering wheel rather than putting brakes that to stop everything. So I think that is a perspective we need to understand when we are dealing with anything from a risk management point of view. So we need to understand what are the uncertainties we are dealing with and how we can enhance our response to that. It's not saying no. Another, I think, myth is around that risk management is only about the compliance and regulation. But the truth is that risk management is about anticipating the future and to make decisions today that will protect the banks or institutions for tomorrow. So that we call resilience. So I think these are some of the myths I have encountered, and I'm trying to bring a different perspective in a risk management field by writing about it from a different perspective. And I have seen over the time in recent past that this uh, this mentality is growing up, looking at things differently from from uncertainty, handling the uncertainty.
That's why I say you're more human than most people that I know, because
Yeah.
you're absolutely right when you're talking about RM. I often say it's like I often thought of people who are very rigid, right? Who look at things like this and like, no, 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 we can't do this because things might explode. We can't do this. But you are completely opposite. You turn it upside down and say, how can we be more prepared for the future? I like the steering wheel part. You like to make comparison with cars. I noticed
Yeah,
that because you did one recently on F1. I actually quoted you on that one,
yeah, yeah.
the
That
F1
was
car.
regarding the AI. Yeah, yeah,
So I'm finding something else in common.
yeah.
All right. So speaking of AI, see, how is the technology being used in the industry today for risk management? Because I feel like we can't get out the door. We can't even get out of bed
Mm.
without seeing something about AI. We're constantly talking about AI. So when you're talking about anticipating for the future and preparing for tomorrow, how is that technology being used in the industry today?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for reminding me about my quote, which I said the AI in banking risk management is like F1 race car,
I love it
powerful,
because I love
fast.
F1. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the analogy is that it's powerful, fast, but if you don't control it well, I mean, it can spin out of control very easily. So that is same true for AI in financial industry. And unfortunately, I have seen over the time that still a lot of automation is packaged in a AI kind of a wrapping, and everyone is talking about automation in name of AI. So that is actually is not what AI is. I mean, that is one of the misconception when we talk about AI in financial industry. We try to automate the task, but automation is not the AI itself. So AI is more from a large language model point of view and deep learning point of view. That is what we call AI. So I think uh, banks it can help banks to be more proactive in risk management rather than reactive. So, but that is also come with a great responsibility. Um, for example, we anything we are implementing in financial industry is becoming a model. So when we are dealing with model, so the first thing comes the model bias in AI, the explainability and the regulatory scrutiny around that. So, like I said in one of my conference in Prague, I said that if you cannot explain it, you cannot, I mean, use it. I mean, the explainability is the major factor in AI. When you are purchasing any solution or developing any solution in AI, the first thing we need to understand that how it is working. Because from a second line of defense point of view, so risk management is second line of defense. So the first line of defense comes with a model proposition that want to develop something AI, and from a second line of defense, we need to understand how it is working. If we can, at second line of defense, we cannot explain it, we cannot understand it. Forget about the regulations. I mean, you cannot explain it to regulator as well. So that is a few of the things which I think uh, whenever the financial institutions or banks are moving towards AI solutions, that is something we need to careful about, and we need to put a lot of emphasis on those areas rather than the functionality itself, because it's very easy that we can develop a black box decision making which we even can't understand how they are making a decision. So second biggest challenge I see is the balancing of automation, or what you say, AI development with human oversight. So we have heard about it a lot of time that AI is going to replace humankind, which in my point of view, it cannot. I mean, it will not. In near future, I can see that it cannot replace human, because we always need human judgment. Whatever AI is producing us as an output is a help. It's a tool. We can use it as a tool, and then at the end of it, we can we can have a judgment. We can have a decision that either we are um, satisfied with this output or not. So that oversight is will always be there. So, so I used to give an example about this, that in any industry, you start with the apprenticeship. Okay, you bring people, you train them, and then you allow them to make decisions. So, like we discussed in the banking industry, you start with your career as a junior position, then you learn with your senior people, with with all the regulations and policies. Then you build your acumen to understand and to realize the things. Then gradually, cooperation brings you to a level where they can give you a decision power. And even then, your decision is then reviewed by some higher management. So same goes with the AI implementation. When you train a model, just like a new employee, and then you train well with the policies, with regulation, with your data, and then try to give a small decision-making task, and then review them, and eventually it will become more powerful. But at the end of the day, the future is not AI versus human; it's AI with human.
Can't agree more. I said the exact same thing in a recent panel. I said, when they asked what is the future of finance, I said the future of finance is AI plus human. There are a lot of aspects around human and humanity that you can't just replace with a machine. I mean, or it might just be our wishful thinking. I don't know. But speaking about AI and risk management, one of the things that we do talk often about is cybersecurity. As much as we can use AI to create value, bad actors are also using AI to do things and scam people and corporations. It's actually really interesting if you think about it. Is a double-edged sword, right? You can do
Yeah.
good, but then you can also create harm. What should we be doing more to mitigate the risks? Because I feel like we can't catch up, right? You think that we've done something, and the next thing you know, they think of a different way of doing things, and for them, there's no guardrail. They can use it however way they want. So, is there something we can do, or what more should we be doing?
Yeah, I think we need to accept, like you said, it's like a double-edged sword. So it can protect us, but it can also use against us. One thing we need to accept as a reality that the bad guys are just more innovative than the good guys. It's
That's true. And they
it's
always go
maybe
after the money.
yeah, yeah, it's because I mean, like you said, it's because the good guys have to go through the regulation, scrutiny, and everything. So there is no guardrail for bad actors. So that's true. But it's like we need to fight fire with a fire. So hackers are using AI like for deepfake scams, social engineering, and even autonomous hacking. So I think to combat with this, we can have AI powered cybersecurity defense, which can actually detect and respond to threat in a real time manner. So right now in banking industry, when we talk about fraud, scam management, so it's not very real time process. So we have to engage based on the event happening, and then we have to analyze the event and respond. But I think with the innovation of AI, like I said, the bad guys are more innovative. We need to be more creative as well in tackling those threats. And one of the main thing I always emphasize is the continuous staff training. So because most cyber breaches start with human error. So when your staff doesn't understand the technology or the how they are using it, so it's very easy to get trapped in it and then make an error and then allow bad actors to go into your system. So staff training is very important. And over and above what we can do, I think we can add some multi-layer authentications which we already have, but we can make it more behavioral through the behavioral analysis of humankind. We can add that behavioral biometric kind of authentication, which eventually make it harder for attackers to impersonate users. So I think these are the few of the things uh, which we can use to combat these uh, yeah, threats. And ultimately, I think cybersecurity is is not just an IT issue. We need to think it differently. It's basically a business issue. because a single cyber breach can wipe out years of trust and the reputation of any institution. So if we look at from a business issue point of view, we can bring more ideas and more responsibilities when dealing with it.
Yeah, with the with your comments around staff training, I absolutely agree, especially since I've seen companies that tell the staff, don't use AI, you're not allowed to use any of these tools, and guess what they do? They go and use it because it's human nature, right? If it's something that's helpful to what you do, they'll go use it. So a better approach could have been, how can we train them so they understand what things need to be done, and
Yeah.
how can they safeguard what they do? Don't upload your code to the tool, for example. That would
Yeah.
be a good start. What of all the things you've seen, right, over
Mhm.
the years, we've gone many cycles. Even with AI, we've gone through a few cycles of this. I remember a few years ago, everyone was um, was very excited about it, and then we had blockchain, we had Web3, we have a lot of technology that have come, they morphed. What what things get you the most excited of all the things you've seen so far?
It's very good question.
Everything?
And actually, yes. I mean, we can start with AI or blockchain or even the quantum computing these days is a very
Oh
hot topic.
yeah, quantum. Yes.
So, so yeah, I mean, see, if you look at all these things, what we are actually trying to see a pattern. The pattern is speed and a time. I mean, we don't have a time to go through the traditional processes now. Even from a demand point of view, customer wants a very speedy kind of a response to everything. They want the product on the go. They want services on the go. So what we are bringing with all these convergence of AI, blockchain, and quantum computing is the speed. So that makes me always very excited about it because it's a game changer. It is a game changer for many traditional industries.
See, here's your common thread again. Car racing, F1. Speed.
Speed.
Okay. After 3 years, I'm learning more about you. All right. Speed. If you were to go back the other way though, so we look forward. I do agree. I think where we are right now is really interesting. But if we were to look back in time, I wouldn't even say like, look back a long time ago. Even if you asked me like 15 years ago, I don't think we will be where we are right now, right? Because, the iPhone was still fairly new. We didn't think we'd be bringing around computer with us. We didn't think we can actually talk to something and actually have things work part of the time. I didn't think I would be able to, get a car while you're in the street on the go, like a lot of things that has happened. If you were to go back and tell yourself like 2 decades ago, what would you tell your younger self to get ready for this age of AI and quantum and speed?
Mm,
Hang on tight.
interesting. Yeah.
Or hear the big
No.
lottery
First
numbers.
thing I would say, I would tell myself 20 years back that please buy Bitcoins
Okay.
because that's has yeah, okay, that's a joke apart. But yeah, I mean, see, 20 years back to myself is something I will tell that don't hold yourself to the limitations of the society or whatever the corporates because we need to take more risk. I was 20 years back, I was like very skeptical about taking risk or
Really?
very shy. Yeah, I mean, so that one thing always reminds me that if I would have been taking more risk at that age and time, would have been a different person. But it's all there. I mean, I'm still very happy what I have achieved. But I would have told myself that take more calculated risk and embrace the discomfort. Don't go for comfortability. And even I would have been speaking up more to feel like the least experienced person in the room and speaking about everything. So so those kind of things I will tell myself that opportunities don't comes in gift wrap. You have to create them. And most importantly, consistency beats talent actually. So to show up, put in the work over time, and expertise will become undeniable. So these things I have learned over the years. But if you are asking me that what I can tell myself 20 years back, so these are the things. I mean, I will tell everyone.
It's funny. Wonder what I would tell myself. I don't even remember what I was doing 20 years ago. Let's see, that would have been 2005, 2005. I think I was actually living in London at that time. I wouldn't, yeah, I agree with taking risks, maybe. I'm not a big risk taker. So I'm not sure if I would listen. Um, create opportunity. I do like that.
Mhm.
Consistency beats talent. That is something we can tell our younger self, and that I think that's something that we need to keep reminding ourselves as well. That's tough. Um, what do you think will be so looking at where we are right now, right? So one of the things I often struggle with as a parent, with kids is what can I even tell them what they need to do to adapt? Because yes, AI is not going to replace humans, but AI is going to change and has changed how we work, has changed different aspects of our lives. Um, at one point, I told my daughter that when you do go to college, which she's young, so it will be a few years, but you need to think about and choose something that won't easily get replaced by a machine. And then she looked at me, she's like, yeah, but you guys also talk about flying cars and there's no flying cars, so I don't believe you.
But it's coming.
Right? It's like, gosh, okay, children, you're difficult.
Yeah.
Um, what what would you tell someone who's just starting out, right, younger than you? What would be some of the qualities that they need to make sure that they have so that they can adapt to this future world? Aside
Yeah, I
from
mean, even
consistency, I really like that word.
yeah, 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 absolutely. So I think I'm giving this advice to my kids as well. That the one thing which can make you stand out of the crowd is the ability to communicate. You need
Hmm.
to learn how to communicate the complex ideas in simple and compelling ways. So, so I always ask them to practice the storytelling. Always try to write something as a storytelling or try to explain something in a way of storytelling. So it will help them to communicate because uh, that is one of the thing which is going to be very different in the future world. Because now we are seeing is that kids in our generation they are lacking the attention span. They cannot even concentrate on one thing. And in this, I mean, age, one thing they should learn and must learn is the way of articulating what they want to say, how they want to say, so other people can understand. And with that, I also tell them that you need to build a ability. To, first, we all are learning anything, everything, every time we are learning something. But the ability to unlearn and then relearn, that will be ultimate superpower. So so what that means is that whenever we are learning something over the time, we try to develop some kind of mentality or the ideas about the world, and we stick with that. We don't want to change that. And whenever someone is telling us to change that, we always feel discomfortable. So with the innovation we are looking at in this current age and time, every innovation is telling us what? Please unlearn what you have learned and relearn. So that is the exact message I would give to younger people, to my kids, even to everyone, that this is one of the things you need to develop.
I feel like I need that too. Right? Because I
We
mean,
all need that. Yeah, absolutely.
we've been around long enough that um it's like we're comfortable. It's human nature, right?
Yeah,
We're comfortable with how things had always been. Um, I remember I was in a museum recently and I saw the rotary phone. Remember those that you have to
yeah,
dial? And it has a cord and it's black. And I'm like, yeah, those were the times when we would actually cherish every minute that you have with your friends because there's no call waiting. You only have very limited amount of time. You have to pay for the time. Um, and nowadays, I see like my kids, they will leave the internet connection on with their friends all the time. They'll just walk around, but that connectivity is always there. It almost feels like they're living together, but they're not living together. And it's just the whole mentality of how you think about human relationship.
yeah,
And all of that is so different. And
yeah,
I struggle, right? I do struggle with it from time to time. I'm like, this is so weird.
yeah, absolutely. In our age, I mean, I can relate to my thinking, what how we perceive the things, because socializing in our times was like personal communication, personal meetings with people,
Yes, yes.
and that still holds true because it has its own power and it has its own benefits. But in this age and time, you cannot take out all the social media from your peers or even from other people. But we have to blend it. We have to blend it well, that beside the social media, which we cannot restrict, we can create some communities, something where we can share the ideas, we can talk about. Not even if we cannot meet personally, like we are doing right now, we can have online communities where we can express ourselves face to face. So that is one thing we can use as a blended approach to relearn the things what we have learned in our past.
Mm-hmm. See, Sajid, beyond
Yeah,
risk management, I think you should actually be a professor. I think you would be really good at that.
that's my passion. Actually, before joining the banking industry, I was the teacher. I was, yeah,
Once a teacher, always a teacher. I could tell.
yeah,
Both of my parents are teachers, so I came from a teaching family, literally. So I think that is also an important quality to have, and I always appreciate that. I always love our conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. And you also write too, right? I noticed that you do write for some of the magazines once in a while.
yeah, right, for Financial Times, banking risk regulation. So, yeah,
See?
so,
Here you
yeah.
go. I'll share some of the links in the show notes as well. But until we meet again, I appreciate your time and thank you so much
Well, thank you
for
so much
joining
for
us.
giving me a chance to express myself. Thank you so much.
No,
Thank
this is like the perfect way for me to start the day. So can't ask for more. And for the rest of our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of One Vision. We'll talk to you next week.